Sagittarius, there's a mistake you are one breath away from making. And if you do, it won't just cost you peace. It will delay your destiny, block your blessings, and reopen a karmic cycle you fought years to escape. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being precise. Because in the next 3 days, you're going to face a divine test, and the universe will be watching not what you say, but what you do. You will be provoked, not by a major crisis, but by something deceptively small. A person, a message, a subtle jab, the kind of trigger that was custom designed to wake your old fire, the exact situation where you once lost control. But now you're being asked to do something almost unnatural for a Sagittarius. Stay silent, stay centered, stay sovereign, because the mistake, the one you can't afford to make, is reacting like your old self. They want a response. They want to pull you back into the storm. But if you react, you repeat. If you stay still, you rise. This isn't just a challenge from life. It's a sacred setup, a karmic check-in. You are not being tested because you're weak. You're being tested because you're on the verge of something massive. And that's exactly why the universe needs to know. Can you hold your fire, or will your fire still hold you? Before we go deeper, let me say this. Every single Sagittarius watching this right now, you didn't land here by accident. If this video reached you, it's because the clock is already ticking. So stay. Because in this message, you will learn what this test is really about, who or what will trigger it, why silence is your superpower, and what happens if you pass. But if you ignore this, if you react too soon, speak too fast, or defend what no longer needs defending, then you may miss the one moment the universe set up for your elevation. Don't make that mistake. Don't move. Listen. Comment if you felt this energy building lately, because what's coming next could change everything. Part 1. The test begins a divine setup, hidden in plain sight. Sagittarius, you already feel it, don't you? The air has changed. Something subtle but sacred is building in the background of your life. And no, it's not a coincidence, not a random emotional wave, not just another tough moment. It's a divine arrangement, a moment designed to test your vibration, not your words. And it begins now. Within the next 72 hours, you will be faced with a choice. Not between good or evil, not between love or hate, but between reaction and evolution. You see, this test won't show up in dramatic ways. It won't come as a loud fight or a public betrayal. It will arrive silently, softly, wrapped in something familiar. Maybe a text message from someone who used to drain you. Maybe a slight comment that feels like a jab. Maybe an opportunity to explain yourself again. You'll recognize the energy instantly, but here's the trap. You'll want to respond, to defend, to prove that you are no longer the version of yourself they once dismissed. But Sagittarius, that's the mistake. This is not the time to react. This is the time to listen to your growth, because this moment is not designed to pull you backward. It's here to see if your soul can hold its shape in silence. Remember, you've spent years evolving, years choosing higher ground, choosing peace over pride, choosing truth over noise, choosing self-trust over external approval. But growth must always be tested before it becomes transformation. That's what this is, not punishment, but preparation, not rejection, but redirection. This test doesn't care how spiritual your words are. It only wants to see how you behave when no one's clapping, when the misunderstanding is quiet, when the trigger is subtle, when the disrespect is dressed in politeness. That's when the universe watches most. So, if you're tempted to speak, stop. If you're tempted to defend, breathe. And if you're tempted to fall back into old patterns, remind yourself you're not the same person anymore. You don't rise by reacting. You rise by remembering who you've become. Life lesson. You're not always tested to expose your weakness. Sometimes you're tested to confirm your evolution. Comment if you've ever faced a moment that tested your silence more than your strength. In part 2, we'll uncover exactly who or what will trigger this test and how to see it for what it truly is, a mirror, not a threat. Part 1. The test begins, a divine setup, hidden in plain sight. Sagittarius, you already feel it, don't you? The air has changed. Something subtle but sacred is building in the background of your life. And no, it's not a coincidence, not a random emotional wave, not just another tough moment. It's a divine arrangement, a moment designed to test your vibration, not your words. And it begins now. Within the next 72 hours, you will be faced with a choice. Not between good or evil, not between love or hate, but between reaction and evolution. You see, this test won't show up in dramatic ways. It won't come as a loud fight or a public betrayal. It will arrive silently, softly, wrapped in something familiar. Maybe a text message from someone who used to drain you. Maybe a slight comment that feels like a jab. Maybe an opportunity to explain yourself. Again, you'll recognize the energy instantly. But here's the trap. You'll want to respond, to defend, to prove that you are no longer the version of yourself they once dismissed. But Sagittarius, that's the mistake. This is not the time to react. This is the time to listen to your growth, because this moment is not designed to pull you backward. It's here to see if your soul can hold its shape in silence. Remember, you've spent years evolving, years choosing higher ground, choosing peace over pride, choosing truth over noise, choosing self-trust over external approval. But growth must always be tested before it becomes transformation. That's what this is. Not punishment, but preparation. Not rejection, but redirection. This test doesn't care how spiritual your words are. It only wants to see how you behave when no one's clapping, when the misunderstanding is quiet, when the trigger is subtle, when the disrespect is dressed in politeness. That's when the universe watches most. So if you're tempted to speak, stop. If you're tempted to defend, breathe. And if you're tempted to fall back into old patterns, remind yourself, you're not the same person anymore. You don't rise by reacting. You rise by remembering who you've become. Life lesson. You're not always tested to expose your weakness. Sometimes you're tested to confirm your evolution. Comment if you've ever faced a moment that tested your silence more than your strength. In part 2, we'll uncover exactly who or what will trigger this test and how to see it for what it truly is, a mirror, not a threat. Part 2, the provocation, who or what will trigger you. You won't see it coming as a dramatic explosion. Not this time. This test will come dressed as something familiar, almost comfortable. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because Sagittarius, what triggers you most isn't always loud. It's specific, precise, designed by the universe to push a button you thought no longer existed. This isn't chaos for the sake of it. This is karma checking in. It may come as a person who questions your integrity, a loved one who says you've changed, but not in a good way, a boss or colleague who who subtly mocks your dreams, a text message that reopens an old wound without even trying. You'll feel it, a sharp stir inside your chest. The fire will ignite not out of hatred, but out of injustice. Because you've worked so hard to grow, and now someone dares to speak to the older version of you, as if you've never evolved. It will feel like betrayal. But here's the secret. This person is not your enemy. They are a mirror. The provocation is not about them. It's about what still lives inside you that wants to be seen, heard, and defended. Sagittarius is ruled by fire, and when that fire is cornered by misunderstanding or dismissal, it erupts. You may feel the words form behind your tongue, the perfect comeback, the intellectual correction, the bold truth. But you're not here to win arguments. You're here to master yourself, and this is your initiation. They'll press on your most human buttons, your need to be understood, your desire to defend your journey, your impulse to explain your truth so others will stop distorting it. But let me remind you of this. You don't owe anyone an explanation, and especially not during a divine test. When you waste your energy trying to clarify your heart to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you leak your power. You slow your evolution. You delay your blessings. So when the provocation comes, and it will smile inwardly, recognize it not as a threat, but as a checkpoint. The universe is whispering, don't bite the bait. You've already outgrown this frequency. Let your silence be your sword. Let your stillness be your sermon. And know this, if someone can still pull you out of alignment, you've given them a power they never earned. Take it back. Life lesson. When someone tries to pull you into the past, don't meet them there. Stay rooted in your becoming. Comment if you've ever been tempted to defend yourself, but chose peace instead. In part 3, we'll go deeper into the inner battle, the temptation to react, and why mastering that moment will shift your entire destiny. Part 3. The temptation to react. The inner war you must win. Now comes the most dangerous part of the test, Sagittarius. Not the moment of provocation itself, but what comes immediately after it. The burn, the rise, the voice in your head whispering, you should say something. You need to defend yourself. They can't get away with this. And that's where the test sharpens, because this is the moment the old version of you would have reacted. Not out of weakness, but out of principle. Sagittarius doesn't react for attention. You react because you live by truth, and truth deserves protection. But here's where everything shifts. This time, truth doesn't need your defense. It needs your embodiment, because the real battle is no longer external, it's within you. Can you sit with the fire without letting it consume you? Can you feel misunderstood without rushing to correct the narrative? Can you let someone be wrong about you and still walk away in peace? That's not passivity, that's spiritual leadership. You are being called to operate from a higher vibration than ever before. Not because the situation is smaller, but because you are greater. And in this very moment, the temptation to react will feel overwhelming. It will feel justified. It will feel righteous. You'll even convince yourself it's necessary, that if you don't speak now, you're somehow betraying your values. But here's the truth you must remember. Not every truth needs to be spoken. Some need to be lived silently, so they can echo louder than words ever could. This is not a test of bravery. This is a test of emotional mastery. Because when you've truly mastered your inner fire, you no longer need to throw it to prove that it burns. You simply become the warmth others feel when they're near you, and the silence that makes them reflect after they've left. That's power. That's Sagittarius evolved. Life lesson. Your reaction is your ritual. Choose it with the same sacred care you'd choose your future. Comment below if you've ever felt your silence say more than your words ever could. In part 4, we'll explore how this restraint isn't weakness. It's the wisdom that turns fire into fuel for the next chapter of your life. Part 4. The wisdom of stillness. When fire becomes fuel. Sagittarius, what if silence isn't the absence of power, but the activation of a higher form of it? You were born to speak truth, to call it like it is, to aim your arrows of insight without hesitation. So when the universe tells you to stay still, to say nothing, to let it pass, it feels wrong. It feels unnatural. It feels like you're betraying the very fire you were born with. But listen closely. That's not silence. That's sovereignty. There are two kinds of silence: the silence that shrinks and the silence that stands tall. The first is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing control. The second is wisdom. The deep anchored knowing that your truth doesn't disappear when unspoken. It becomes magnetic. Because when Sagittarius learns stillness, your fire no longer burns everything in its path. It becomes focused. It becomes fuel. It becomes the heat that powers creation instead of destruction. That's the shift the universe is asking from you now. You're not here to win a battle. You're here to hold a frequency that can't be dragged into the mud. So when the moment comes, and it will, when someone misunderstands you, underestimates you, or tries to shake you, don't react, don't correct, don't descend. Just rise, quietly. Hold your ground in silence, and watch what happens next. Your stillness will confuse them. Your peace will unsettle them. Your silence will echo louder than any speech ever could. Not because you've become cold, but because you've become complete. That's the power of stillness. It speaks without sound. It leads without force. It commands without control. And in this next chapter of your evolution, Sagittarius, you will begin to realize you don't need to chase. You don't need to explain. You don't need to prove. You simply need to hold your center and let everything else adjust to your vibration. Life lesson: stillness isn't surrender. It's strategy, the kind that lets your fire build worlds instead of burning them. Comment if you're learning to lead through calm instead of conflict. In part 5, we'll uncover what begins to unlock when you pass this test, the unexpected blessings that show up when you choose inner alignment over external approval. Part 5. What you gain by passing the test. When silence unlocks what noise couldn't. Here's the part no one tells you, Sagittarius. When you pass a divine test, the reward doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't even come with immediate recognition. It comes with something far greater: alignment. And alignment always delivers what striving never could. Because when you resist the urge to react, when you choose not to fight a battle that doesn't deserve your energy, you send a clear signal to the universe. I'm no longer operating from survival. I'm operating from sovereignty. And that signal, it opens doors you didn't even know were closed. Here's what starts to shift when you pass the test. A conversation you've been waiting on suddenly arrives with clarity and kindness. A delay that's frustrated you for months begins to move effortlessly. A connection, an opportunity, a breakthrough appears seemingly out of nowhere. But it's not nowhere. It's from your new vibration. You've become magnetic, not because you tried harder, but because you reacted less, because you stayed still when your ego screamed, because you didn't fall back into the chaos, because you refused to abandon your growth just to be understood. The result, the universe no longer has to withhold your blessings for your own protection. You've shown you're ready. You've shown you can be trusted. You've shown that your power is no longer fragile. It's anchored, and from that anchoring comes everything you've been working for. Opportunities that require calm leadership, not loud validation. Relationships that respect your silence as much as your voice. Ideas that land in your spirit with clarity because your energy is finally quiet enough to receive them. You're not chasing anymore. You're attracting, not out of strategy, but out of self-possession. Because when you choose to master yourself in the storm, you gain access to a version of life that only opens at that level of mastery. In Sagittarius, you've reached that level. Life lesson. What you resist reacting to today becomes the peace that welcomes miracles tomorrow. Comment if you've noticed blessings appear the moment you chose not to respond. In part 6, we'll go deeper into what kind of blessings begin to manifest and how they shape a new identity for Sagittarius, not as the warrior, but as the anchor of light. Part 6. The elevation of identity. Who you become after the test. After you pass the test. After you choose peace over pride. After you stand in silence while the fire rages around you. Something remarkable begins to shift Sagittarius. But it's not just in your outer world, it's in you. Because when you no longer respond like the person you used to be, you stop being that person altogether. A subtle shedding begins, not dramatic, not forced, just real. You start to move differently, speak differently, see differently. You stop feeling the need to explain your worth. You stop chasing closure from people who could never give it. You stop shrinking to be understood. Instead, you begin to inhabit a quieter, stronger version of yourself. A version that doesn't ask for permission. A version that doesn't seek validation. A version that walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word because the energy says everything. This is not arrogance. It's embodied alignment. You're no longer reacting from past wounds. You're responding from present wisdom. This is when you stop living life as the archer on the run and start living as the sage with the bow lowered. Not because you've given up your fire, but because you've finally mastered where to aim it. You've become what Sagittarius was always meant to be, a living lighthouse. Not a warning, not a weapon, but a guide fierce, clear, unwavering. And the world begins to notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're lighter. And in that lightness, your identity stabilizes. You're no longer chasing a version of you that proves something. You're becoming the version of you that attracts everything that matches your peace. Life lesson. You know you've evolved when your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. Comment if you're starting to feel that shift inside the one where your silence feels like strength, not absence. In part 7, the final part, will reveal how your new identity becomes the foundation for your next chapter, and why this silence wasn't just a test, but the initiation into your highest timeline. Part 7, the sacred arrival, where silence becomes your new power. Sagittarius, if you've made it to this point, it means you've already begun to feel it. That something within you has shifted. You're no longer standing at the edge of who you used to be. You've stepped into a quieter, deeper version of your strength. And now you understand this test wasn't about silence. It was about sovereignty. It wasn't about letting things slide. It was about letting things go. not to be passive, but to be powerful beyond provocation, because you finally see. Peace is not a passive state. It's a decision, a boundary, a frequency that only the evolved can hold. And that's what you've done. You've crossed the threshold from reaction to revelation. You've entered a space where the noise of the world can no longer move you, because you've rooted your truth so deeply it no longer needs defending. Now, the blessings that were once withheld begin to flow, not because you fought for them, but because you became aligned enough to receive them. Now the people who truly see you begin to appear. Not because you shouted your story, but because your energy whispered it into the right ears. Now the doors that wouldn't open begin to unlock. Not because you pushed, but because you waited with wisdom. This is what it means to evolve as a Sagittarius. To go from the fire that burns to the light that guides. And if all of this resonates in your soul, then you've passed the test. Not by force, not by effort, but by embodying your truth silently, steadily, sacredly. Life lesson: the most powerful transformation is the one no one sees because it's happening inside you. Comment below if this message found you exactly when you needed it, and if you're ready to walk into your next chapter with silent power, sovereign peace, and magnetic alignment. Then let the universe hear you. I choose peace over pride. I choose silence as my strength. I choose to rise. Thank you for watching the Sagittarius Flame. If this message lit something within you, share it with someone who may be facing their own test. And remember, your silence has already spoken. The universe has heard you, and what's next is sacred.